Okay, third graders, so we are working on our interactive notebook. I'm just going to do one video for the entire notebook section on perimeter and area. And then you can, of course, pause the video at any time and go back and rewatch things that you need to rewatch to get caught up. You don't have to do all your sheets at one time. We will take several days to get all these sheets in. So we're starting a new section. Now some of you have started a brand new notebook. So this will be the first section in your new notebook because you've run out of paper in your first notebook. I'm going to keep going with the original notebook I started with. Some of you will too. So if you are still using the same notebook we started the year with, then you're starting a new section titled Measurement and Data. Perimeter and area fit in our standard of measurement and data. So you're going to need to trim out your title page, glue it down, cut out your circle, and fold and glue down your tab. Okay, so this is our new section in our notebook, or you've started a brand new notebook called Measurement and Data. All right, the first page we're going to look at, we're going to do the first two pages are going to be our interactive notebook pages on perimeter. So you have one that looks like this. It's got your standard, says perimeter. I can find the perimeter of a rectangle and explain how I solved the problem. You're going to see 4 tabs that you've glued down. Remember, perimeter is add all the sides. I'm going to write that up here. Add all the sides. In perimeter, we're walking around our shape. We're adding up every side that we see. So we're going to just walk around this shape and add our numbers. I see 9 plus 5 plus 6 plus 2 plus 3 plus 3. If a side is missing, you have to figure out what that missing side is. So under the tab, I'm just going to add these numbers together. 9 plus 5 plus 6 plus 2 plus 3 plus 3. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. So we would definitely want to make sure that our sides and our numbers match. All right, so let's add these together now. Now how you add it is up to you. I like putting the smaller factors together first. So I know 3 and 3 is 6, 2 and 6 is 8, 9 and 5 is 14. Then I'll add those together. 14 and 8, 22. 22 plus 6 is, of course, 26. I'm sorry, 8 is 28. Let me add those together, 28. So 28, and it is meters. M stands for meters. 28 meters on our first shape. I'm going to do one more with you. I want you to do this one by yourself that has the multiple numbers. Down at the bottom, you have a triangle, and you have a pentagon, I believe. I think that's got 5 sides. I'm going to do the triangle with you and then let you finish the other 2. Remember, perimeter, we're walking around the outside of the shape. So we have 15, 17, and 21. Triangles have 3 sides. So I should have 3 numbers. Now I stacked them this time since there were only 3. I'm going to add those together. 7 and 1 is 8. 8 and 5. 13. Regroup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 53, and I believe this one is in centimeters. So that's perimeter. Perimeter, walk around your shape, add all your sides. Okay, down at the bottom it tells you that also you have a little, you're going to glue this down. Perimeter is the distance around 2-dimensional shapes. Perimeter, they're showing you to add your sides. Okay, there's another page that is on perimeter that we're going to do next. This says perimeter with unknown sides. Sometimes they're going to give you a shape where they do not let you know what one of the sides equals. So then you're going to have to use the other numbers to figure out. Let's look at this first one. So I have this side that's labeled G. G just means it's a variable. That just means that there's supposed to be a number here. All my other sides have a number. They also tell me what my perimeter equals. So to solve this, I need to get rid of all the sides that are here. So I'm going to add all of these numbers together that I have, and then I'm going to take that away from the 54, and whatever is left will give me this missing side. So we have 18, 9, and 10, and 8, and 5. Let me count, make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides are here. One side is missing. So I'm going to add these 5 sides together. 9 and 8 and 9 is 17. 17 and 0 is still 17. 17 and 8. 25 and 5 is 30. Regroup. 3, 4, 5. So all of these sides are 50. Now, I want to take this away from the 54. Remember, the perimeter was 54. If I get rid of all the other sides, I'm left with 4. So 4 would be the missing side, which is meters. Now again, I can look at this. I got the answer 4, which is the smallest number on this shape. Is this the smallest side? Yeah. So your number, always check your number that you get for an answer should match the picture. If the big side's missing, you should get a big number. If a small side's missing, your answer should be small. So always check to make sure your numbers make sense. I'm going to let you do this one, the next by yourself. I think you can handle these 3. So add up the sides that are there, and then subtract it from the perimeter. Remember, the perimeter is the total. So you need to get rid of all the sides you have from your total. The next pages that you have are all area pages. So there's 2 ways to find area. This one says area in square units. I can recognize and understand the area of plane shapes. So on area, that's the grass inside the playground. That means we're filling in the entire shape. So if you have it on grid, simplest way to solve it, count all the squares. So let's start with this one. Again, you've got a tab here. This is an area model. Now you know why we call it an area model, because it's area. So I can just do length times width here, or row times column, to get my area. Instead of counting all of these, that's one way we could do it. Or you can simply number all your squares and still get the same answer. So I'm actually showing you 2 ways to solve this. You can number and see there are 12 square units, or you could have done 3 rows times 4 columns and also gotten 12. But our area is going to be 12 units squared, our squared units. Since they don't tell us what our measurement is, they're just squares, we just simply label it units. Units squared or squared units. Okay, so I think you can handle this page without me. Just count those squares and label them units squared or squared units, just like you see down here on the example at the bottom. Area is the size of the shaped surface. You're filling in the shape. So this one has 1, 2, 3, 4. So look at your answer, 4 square units. Remember that little floating 2 means square. The next area page, you don't have the square units. They actually number or measure the sides. So remember, on area, simply do length times width. So I want you to write area equals L times W. Length times width. You only need 2 sides. So on this first one, length is my long side, or that's how I always remember it. So we have 5 and we have 3. So to solve this, we're just going to say 5 times 3, length times width. 5 times 3 is 15. Our label is centimeters, cm squared. Or you can write the word squared centimeters. I like using the little floating 2. next one, I'll let you do that one by yourself. I think you can handle all of these. Just remember on area, it's length times width. You take your long side times your short side, and that will give you your answer. All right, next page. This time you don't have these perfect little rectangles or squares. You've got what we call an irregular shaped object. We're still doing length times width. The difference is we're going to have to split or cut these into, make them into rectangles or squares. So there's two ways I can divide this shape to make rectangles. I could go across here, or I could go up here. Two ways. I'm going to choose to go across this way this time. Now, if you go the other way, that doesn't mean it's wrong. Now, what you've got to be careful on when you're doing this area is you don't need all of these numbers. Now, if we were doing perimeter, yes, you would need every one of these numbers. But we're doing area. So we only need the long side and the short side. Now I have two rectangles. I've got this big rectangle on the top. What is the long side on it? 9. What's the short side on this one? 3. So I'm going to be using 9 and 3 for my top rectangle. I'm just going to write that inside. Length times width, 9 times 3. My smaller rectangle has a bunch of numbers around it. I only need 2 numbers to do area. So the long side is labeled down here at the bottom. That's the 6. The short side is labeled over here on the side, and it's a 2. So to get this one, I just need 6 times 2. So now I'm going to work both of them. Under my tab, 9 times 3 is 27. 6 times 2 is 18. Now remember, I split it. I cut the shape. So now I need to put them back together. So I'm just going to add these two together, 27 plus 18. 8 and 7 is 15. Regroup. 1, 2, and 1 make 4. So 45. I see meters and m squared to get my area. So remember, when you cut the shapes to make rectangles, you only use your long side and your short side, multiply, and then add your two areas together. Let's do one more. Let's go to this one at the bottom. It's got a whole bunch of numbers around it. Now I have two ways I can cut this. I can go across here, or I can go down. This time I think I'm going to go down. Really doesn't matter. Just the way you cut it depends on what numbers you use. Now remember, I want length and width. I want the long and short side. So let's look at this tall one. What's the long side? 10. What's my short side? 4. So I'm going to be using 10 and 4 to get that answer. Now let's look at this one. Be careful. That 8 went all the way across. I just cut it, so it's not 8 anymore. I need to use the 4 and the 4. This is a square, and it makes sense that a square would have the same number for length and width. That makes sense, or it should. So now let's solve them. 10 times 4 is 40. And 4 times 4 is 16. Add your two areas together because we cut it apart. We need to put it back together. 56, and these are centimeters squared, or squared centimeters. And there's our answer. I'm going to leave the last two for you to do on your own. Okay? The next page, well, the next 3 pages are going to look like little word problems that we're just going to work through. 2 of them are on area, and one's a review on perimeter and area. It says a 3rd grade class garden is 6 feet long and 6 feet wide. So we have our length and our width. What's the area? What's the problem asking? It wants to know what is the garden's area. So it's asking us to find area. I'm going to circle that word area because that tells me how to solve the problem. To get the area, we have to multiply. So draw a picture. This is my garden. The long side is 6 feet, FT for feet. The short side is 3 feet, FT for feet. So I have my length and my width. My lines are not very straight though, are they? Pretend. Now my number sentence, we're doing area. So area is going to equal length is 6 feet times width is 3 feet. There's my number sentence. My answer, what is 6 times 3? 6 times 3 is 18. So 18 square feet or feet square. How did we solve the problem? We multiplied length times width, which was 6 times 3. That's how we solved the problem. Length times width. Area is length times width. All right, your next word problem. I'm going to let you do this one on your own. It's the same way we just did the garden, except this time it's a painting. A painting is still a rectangular shape. It says the painting at the museum is 12 feet wide and 5 feet tall. And you're, again, finding area. So I'm going to let you work that one on your own. Same way, use our garden to help you. And the last one. This is a review over both area and perimeter. Rectangles have the same perimeter. If the area of the shaded region is 9 centimeters squared, what are its dimensions? Okay, so the problem is asking dimensions. That's a good word. Dimensions means what are the lengths around this rectangle? Okay, that's what dimension is. What's the length and the width? So what's the problem asking? What does each side measure? That's basically what it's asking us. What are those sides, lengths, and widths going to be? Now look how they helped us. They've already drawn one of our pictures. They've already got 3 and 7, okay? Now, they've told us that the perimeter of this rectangle and the shaded rectangle are going to be equal. So I need to first find the perimeter of the shaded, the rectangle that is not shaded. Now, how do we find perimeter? We add all the sides. So I'm going to put P equals, we have a 7, a 3. But how many sides are on this rectangle? 4. We got to walk all the way around. So what's going down here? 7 again. And what's going over here? 3. So we've got to add these numbers up twice because it's a 4-sided shape. When we're doing perimeter, we need 4 numbers because there are 4 sides. So let's add them together. 7 and 3 is 10. 7 and 3 is 10. So the perimeter of this shape would be 20 centimeters. Okay, no square perimeter. Only area gets squares because it's made of squares. So that tells me that this rectangle here also has to equal 20 if I add all the sides up. So we now know they both have a perimeter of 20 because my problem told me the perimeters are the same. Now they're giving us the area of the shaded rectangle. So we know this one's area is 9 centimeters squared, okay? How do we find area? Length times width. Oops, area equals length times width. So what are the only 2 numbers that I can multiply? What are some numbers we can multiply that would give us 9? Well, 3 times 3 wouldn't, but if it was 3 and 3, what shape would that be? It'd have to be a square because a square, every side would be the same. Do these sides look like they match? No. So it's not 3 times 3. So the only other way you can get a 9 would be 9 times 1. Now, to know if we're correct, we need to see if this is true. If it's 9 and 1, would my perimeter equal 20? Because remember, the perimeters have to match. So now let's find the perimeter of our shaded one. 9 plus 1 plus 9 plus 1. 9 and 1 is 10. 9 and 1 is 10. What's 10 and 10? 20. So do my perimeters match? Yes. So we have found the dimensions, or what the size of the shaded rectangle is. Okay, so down here on our answer, we're going to tell the dimensions. We're going to say it has a length of 9 centimeters and a width of 1 centimeter. 9 and 1 were the two sides. How do we solve the problem? So on that box, you're going to tell me that you added first to find the perimeter of the unshaded rectangle, and then you figured out what two numbers would be multiplied to get the area of the shaded rectangle, and then you added the perimeter. You found the perimeter of the shaded rectangle to make sure it was 20, and since it matched, then we knew that our dimensions were 9 and 1. Okay, that finishes up your interactive notebook. You can go back and rewatch this as many times as you need to.